Now, John, fill us in a little bit. You know, how did it happen to be here? Why is it here? And what kind of disease cycle are we dealing with this type of with this tar spot?
Yep. So Matt, we are in a corn on bean field, so a rotated field, no fungicide. So we wanted to see where we could find it in some of the worst spots. And what you can see here, if you're in the field, is we actually have an infection that looks like it's coming from the bottom up. So the top leaves aren't as affected, but when you get to the ear leaf, you can see that there's significant infection here. We'll have pictures to show you what we're looking at here because we know it's definitely hard to tell. One of the things with tar spot is tar spot will be the black spots on the upper surface of the leaf, but if you flip that leaf over, you'll also see those black spots on the back side of the leaf. You can't scrape those black spots off, and that's an indicator that that is truly that tar spot infection that we're looking for. Most of these leaves that were infected here, we're looking at probably 20-30% coverage, so significant infection, and most of this infection began in July, okay? So now we're in mid-September, and we can see that that infection's picking up. Typically, that's because of the humid conditions that we're dealing with in September. We just had some decent rainfall earlier, and we have some leaf wetness that really prolongs and allows that tar spot to amplify. The other thing that amplifies tar spot is we want that temperature somewhere between 75 and 85 degrees, but most of it is driven on that humidity or that leaf wetness component.
Okay. Looking out here, John, we have ears that look fairly good. So where is the yield effect?
So a lot of times what we look at in these ears, and you can see the ear counts, and we were grabbing ears earlier and going, well, gosh, this looks like a pretty good ear. It's 20 around, maybe 30 plus long. But what we'll see is that tar spot infection doesn't necessarily cause tip back because it happens later after pollination. So we don't get kernel abortion, but what really affects is kernel weight, okay? And that's during grain fill. So a lot of times when you start to split those ears, you'll see that those kernels don't fill as well. You don't get as many kernels per bushel, so takes a lot more kernels to fill up that 156-pound bushel, and that's where we lose some yield. The other place we can potentially lose yield with tar spot is maybe it's not as significant for kernel fill, but it definitely has detriments on robbing and cannibalizing nutrients from the stalk. Because the plant can't photosynthesize later in the season, 70% of the nutrients come from that ear leaf and up. So if it can't photosynthesize, it's going to be robbing it from the bottom part of the stalk, and that could cause some late season standability issues. And so the yield loss might actually be in the field. It just might be potentially on the ground.
Okay. So tar spot is one of the most talked about diseases that we're kind of trying to manage for now. Kind of reminds me a little bit of Goss's wilt when that first started getting talked about. Explain some of the differences between Goss's wilt and tar spot as it pertains to possibly a fungicide management to help mitigate it, and then also from a hybrid selection standpoint, whether or not we can actually breed for products that are more tolerant to tar spot. So where are we at with that?
So differences are first we're bacteria versus a fungi, right? Yep. And we know that we have fungicide to take care of fungi. So tar spot can be affected by fungicide application, whereas Goss's wilt was a bacteria, could not. Okay, so we're one step ahead there. The thing with tar spot is a lot of times we get infected early, and then it has a latency period. So it lays down for 20 to 30 days, really doesn't amplify, doesn't get as infectious. And then once we get that cool, wet September weather, that's when it picks up and goes through the plant. What we've seen in some plots, just looking at different hybrids, is most all hybrids can be infected with tar spot, but there's definitely different tolerances between those hybrids. Okay, so right now, Matt, I think it's too early to say, hey, this hybrid has a better tolerance to that hybrid, because at one plot you might see one hybrid performing very well, and you go down the road 60 miles and you might see, well, that maybe isn't performing as well. So we're in the process of trying to rate the hybrids, but the other thing is trying to get a consistent tar spot infection to do a rating on. So that's all still being developed. If you do run into an area or a rep that's talking about hybrid tolerances to tar spot, just be a little bit wary and careful. That stuff is still being developed, and we want to make sure that we have a good rating before we just plant that hybrid in a lot of the acres.